Hi, friends. It is finally time to talk about layer masks. One of the most powerful features in Photoshop, I think, that's going to open a lot of doors and also really improve the way that you edit and work with images, especially multiple images. So far, what we've learned and the processes that we've used have mostly all been destructive editing. What that means is when we use the retouching tools or we delete backgrounds of things, we are physically changing or even destroying or erasing the original pixels of the image. Those pixels are completely altered when we, retouch, when we delete parts of images, when we delete the backgrounds of things. That's all destruction. That's destructive. Even if we think we're making the image better, we're destroying the original integrity of those pixels. So for instance, when we have learned about selections in the past, we would go and make some sort of selection and then maybe delete an object, or we would, for instance, I can go up to select the inverse, so I select the opposite of the bird, which is the background, and delete the background, and then we go on our merry way. We can see over here in our layers, though, that the background's been deleted. We see the checkers over here in the thumbnail. We see the checkers here on the screen. That means that there is nothing there, that the pixels that were there have been deleted. So we're going to learn a better way. And from this point forward, deleting pixels is banned. Using the eraser tool is banned. So no more of this, getting our eraser, coming in and getting rid of stuff like this. None of that. So we're going to learn a better way, and I'm going to show you on this other layer. So that was my destructive layer that we have destroyed. Here's my non-destructive layer, and I'm going to show you the difference here. For what we're doing, I really only need to select the bird's body, so I'm not going to worry about the wings. But I am going to use, let's see what kind of a job the object selection tool can do for me. It's confused, understandably, about why I only selected part of the bird and it doesn't know what I want to do, so that might not be the best tool. But I think I'm going to just do the whole bird, and then I'll show you how we're going to change things in a second. There are parts of my bird that are missing, so whatever kind of selection you get when you go to do yours, you might want to fine tune it a little bit. Now remember, my bird is what's actively selected, so I either need to add or remove from my bird selection. Parts of the bird that I do want, the body, the legs, the head, the beak, are missing, so I have to add those back in. There's a bunch of ways to do that. We've already learned them, either the lasso, the polygon, magnetic lasso, quick selection, any of that stuff. I'm just going to use the Polygon Lasso tool. It's pretty fast. So to add to a selection, remember I have to hold shift, and I'm just going to go around the parts of the bird that didn't get included in my selection. Now, this is what I see a lot of you do, is just like from here, you just let go or you hit enter and it goes back to where it started. But that is, here, I'll actually just show you. I hit enter. Oops, I took it from down here. So I'm holding shift. I'm going to do that again. Let's just say I end right here. And I'm like, oh, cool. I want to add that to my selection. But you see these chunks are missing. So you have to go all the way back to where you started. You can't do a shortcut. All right. So I'm getting the parts of the image that didn't make it into my selection the first time, making sure to go all the way back to my starting point, and then they get added to my selection. I'm not worried about the wings. If I come to a part here that needs to be removed from my selection, like the bird's what I want to select, I want to remove this piece. I'm going to hold Alt and go around to where I started. If you can't find your original point, you can just hit enter if you've clicked close to it. And again, I'm just using Shift to add and Alt to remove, going around my image to make sure that my selection is as good as it can be within reason. I don't need to be, I don't need to spend all day on this part, but I do want to get a decent job done. The tail as well didn't get included very well, so I'm going along and adding the tail back in, again, holding Shift to add to my selection. Okay, and I can just hit enter there. For the purposes of what we're doing, that is good enough. So So I've got my selection. I've kind of cleaned it up. I've paid extra attention to the bird's body, tail, and legs. We're not worried about the wings right now. What we would do in the past, like I said, we would delete the background that is banned. So the new way we're going to do this is with our active selection, with our dotted lines marching around the bird. We're going to hit this icon at the bottom of our layers panel. When we mouse over it, we see it says add layer mask. When I click that, it looks like I deleted the background. It's not there. I see the checkers. That means that there's no pixels there. It's transparent. But when I look over at my layers panel, what do I see? On my non-destructive layer that we were working on, I see the entire image is still there. In this little thumbnail, I see the background behind the bird, but I don't see it on my canvas. When I look over to the right of that thumbnail, I see the black and white layer mask. Now, the outline of the bird that was in my selection is filled in white. The background that was outside of my selection is filled in with black. This is the bottom line of how layer masks work. You can start with a selection, or you can start with a layer mask. It'll be all white, and then you can paint in black. But the concept is white reveals or white shows, black conceals or hides. So when I have my layer mask selected, I get my paintbrush and I come in with black. See how it's going to start to hide more of my image? I can see now in my little tiny thumbnail here that I've painted black through that white blob of the bird. I can undo that. So I can paint with black in here if I did want to clean up the wings, and kind of modify my selection that way. Now this is great for a couple reasons. One, you're not destroying your image. Your original is always intact. So for some reason, if one day you couldn't find the original image that you used, but you did have the original layer still here and you just had a layer mask, you could always kind of like reverse save your original that way. Also, the more complex our projects start to get, the more time we're going to have to spend on them. We're going to be spending multiple days on our projects coming up. And if you are in the habit of erasing things and then you save and you come back the next day, the computer is not going to let you control Z your way back days or weeks ago. You only have a short window for that. So if I am working on an image, I delete the background, like let's say I accidentally do this, but I don't see it. I come back the next day and I go, oh shoot, my feather on this wing is missing. I can't control Z my way back out of that if I erased it. If I use the layer mask, I can just get white on my paintbrush, come in and paint that back. It's going to still be there, whether it's minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, or years later. That original image is always going to be there intact. That's why this is called non-destructive editing. We are not destroying the original in any way. It remains, perfect like the day that we found it. So what we're going to want to do at this point, we've got the background hidden underneath the black part of our mask. We have the bird showing in white. I want you to get your paintbrush, shortcut B, and I want you to get black on top. And remember, if you've ever changed your colors, you can hit D as in default, and that'll switch back to black and white. And you can hit X to toggle between your foreground and background color. So when I hit X, those colors switch. So I want black on top. I'm going to get my brush, and I'm going to just paint away on the layer mask. This is important. With the layer mask selected, I'm going to paint over the bird's wings in black, and they're going to hide or disappear. Now remember, they're still there in the original photo, but the mask is hiding them. The difference, if I am not being careful and I'm not painting on my layer mask, if I don't realize that I have the actual photo selected and I go to paint, you're going to notice it. You're going to be painting in black on your photo. I've just painted black. That's not what we're trying to do. So you have to make sure you have the layer mask selected, the black and white one. There will be a little white like bracket square around it. And that's when it translates black to hiding what you're painting over and white to showing what you're painting over. So hide the bird's wings so that we're just left with a weird flying bird torso. The cool thing is that you can go back and forth too. So again, you're not erasing pixels. They're never gone. You can bring them back and forth as many times as you want. So this is what we want to end up with. Now, the most important thing to me is the screenshot, because I'm going to be looking at your bird, but more importantly, I'm going to be looking at your layers. You don't have to have a destructive layer. We don't need that. this is what I'm looking for. Your original intact preserved image with a black and white layer mask, and that black and white layer mask should be hiding the background and the bird's wings from your canvas. So this is what I want to see. So you're going to do function Windows print screen to get a copy of that. But then, of course, always go back and save your PSD, your Photoshop document, and also your JPEG. So I've got my PSD saved. I'm going to save my JPEG, and I just did my screenshot, so I'm all set. When I do save a JPEG, this is a little side note. When I save a JPEG, it is going to convert the background to black and white because JPEGs don't save transparent backgrounds. That's okay. PNGs will do that, though. PNGs will save a transparent background. So I hope that makes sense. If it's confusing for now, don't worry about it. It'll start to make more sense the more we use them.